Panchatattva, Vamanadev, and Parsuramji. Shri Jagannath Baladev Dev Subhadra ki Jai. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ulminitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvesesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabho Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Om Tat Sat. Okay, so today we are welcome devotees for this morning Srimad Bhagavad Gita class. Today we are discussing the 13th chapter, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. The verse that I have been asked to take up is verse number 28. So let's read the verse. Samam sarveshu bhuteshu tistantam parameshwaram vinasyats avinashyantam yah pashyanti sa pashyati. Translation: one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Namam sarveshu bhuteshu ishtantam parameshwaram vinashyatsvi avinashyantam yah pashyanti sa pashyanti. So here it is mentioned in this verse, we are discussing about the nature, the enjoyer and consciousness, the kind of knowledge that a self-realized person is supposed to acquire, or the practitioner is supposed to come to this point that has been mentioned here, that it is mentioned that one should be able to see the super soul and the soul. And he should be able to see it in all the bodies. And he should also understand that these two, the super soul and as well as the soul, they are never destroyed. A person who has a vision like that, a person who is able to understand it that way, who is able to behave that way, then it is mentioned that he actually sees correctly. So this eyes that we have with which we see, many of us always say, oh, I don't know what happened in the past. You are talking about all these, karma and, the actions, reactions, all these things. Who knows? I don't know. I don't really care. It is today is what matters, and this moment is what matters, and I need to enjoy life. So this is a philosophy which is there from the Western side. And today, most of us, I'm saying most of us, I'm not talking about devotees who have a reasonably good understanding, but the common populace in, 99% or even, 99.99% of the world is actually thinking in this direction that, we are this body and we need to experience this life, as they say it, experience life and enjoy as much as possible. But the fact that the real seer is one who's actually able to see beyond what is there that exists between a date of birth and date of death. Beyond that also, before and after, he should be able to see. And that is a person who's actually is in a spiritual path. And that is what has been mentioned here. And here Prabhupada is writing that there are he sees three things in the in what is being mentioned here. One is the body, of course, which everybody is able to see. Then there is this soul which is inside the body, and here it is called the Parameshwara is the word used. The one who is the owner of the body, you can call it, because this word Parameshwara can be used in two different ways depending on what context it is used. When you are looking at the body, and if someone is considered as the so-called proprietor, that means one who is residing in that body, then he is the controller of the body. In that sense, he is the Parameshwara, he is the controller. But then, so some people define in this verse, this Parameshwara refers to only soul. But some other commentators are of the view that Parameshwara is actually referring to that super soul, that, the original proprietor, not the temporary proprietor, but the original proprietor. So Prabhupada is saying, whichever way it is, either the soul or the super soul, it doesn't matter. That person should be able to see all these three, because if you argue this is just the body, we clearly know that the super soul is also sitting inside this body. Krishna is saying, right? I am seated in everyone's heart as the super soul. He is saying that in the earlier verses. So therefore, the super soul is also inside this body. So Prabhupada is saying, it doesn't matter whether Parameshwara refers to the soul or the super soul. One should know that both are seated inside this body. So this body is temporary, but the person who's managing this body, which is the soul, whose presence is known by the consciousness, that soul and the super soul and the body has to be understood very clearly, and that is knowledge. And it's not that, okay, I understand I am soul and then there is a super soul and I am body. I should also be able to understand that, therefore, every body also has a soul which is similar to me in properties, and then the super soul who is actually common between both of us. This is knowledge. So that is one aspect of the whole thing. Now, this concept about knowing everything as, that the soul is similar to everywhere. The soul in every other body is also similar to me. That is also important. And that is mentioned in many verses, right? Brahmana Samadarshana. There are many verses. If you see in the 5th and 6th chapter, you get many of these clarification, which clearly indicates that that soul which is sitting inside me is same as the soul that is sitting inside every one of us, and even inside the animals and whatever other living entities whose identification is known by the consciousness that is there inside. And therefore, effectively, it is not like about me and this body, me and mine. That concept is actually defeated in that sense for a person who is actually able to see. For him, it is not about me and mine, because that restricts one to this entire bodily conception. But a person who really sees is able to see that I am a part and parcel of that Supreme Personality of Godhead. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is represented by the Super Soul, who is actually a summation of within all of these hearts. He is one, but every individual part and parcels are spread in so many different bodies. And therefore, it's not that, I actually means that, what is caught up only within this body. I should be able to see everybody equally, and we are all part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is one of the important aspects. Now, the other aspect is from what we discussed. One is to know that, this I am soul, and then I am seated inside this body, the second aspect. And the third one is, of course, the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Paramatma is seated inside me. The second aspect is that this soul, and of course, the super soul, there is no destruction of these two. The body, of course, is destructible. That is very clear. The body, the third component, is destructible, but the super soul is not destructible. Neither is the soul destructible. That has been discussed here. In the 4th chapter, 5th verse, the Lord says, the Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bahuni me Vyatitani Janmani Tavacha Arjuna Tani Aham Veda Sarvan Na Tvam Veta Parantapa. There are two aspects here, but the first aspect is what we are discussing, that Bahuni me Vyatitani Janmani Tava Arjuna. Many births both of you and I have passed, he is saying. And many births you and I have passed, he is saying, means you are actually transmigrating from one body to another, while I am appearing in different times like that. He is not born when he's saying you and I have, he is not saying born. Many births, both of you and I have passed, he's saying, but when he says this born, that doesn't mean the Lord is born. He is eternally present, unlike us who are actually transmigrating into different bodies, because his form is not material like how our form is, which is taking different births. But the Lord's form is permanent. That we will see in the next verses, where he's saying, although I am unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates. And although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. So these two together we should understand when we are relating to this verse in 28th verse in 13th chapter. So the Lord also is appearing while we are transmigrating, leaving that body and getting into another body. But the Lord is not leaving the body to get into another body. His form is ever existing and he is always there. He just appears in this material world with that original form. Whichever form that he chooses to take, those are all permanently there. Narasimhadev is permanently there. Lord Ram is permanently there. It is not like, okay, from the Lord Ram was a kind of suddenly came up. No. So the Lord is eternally present everywhere. Our souls are eternally present, but we cannot think that the body in which the soul is coming is eternally present. So these are the three things that we should understand from this verse. Yeah, I think I have covered all the aspects. If there are any questions or comments, we can take it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Vidur Madhav Prabhu. Dear devotees, would anyone like to ask any questions pertaining to this verse or chapter? Okay. So no questions today. So thank you. Thank you.